Oh, thank you, David. I absolutely love being with your community. And there's really nothing I love more than being in spiritual community and being in a conversation about how we shift our consciousness and open up to more love, more presence, more abundance, and more connection. And our topic today is the paradigm of oneness. And I want to start by reading an excerpt from my first book, Conscious Being. And I'm actually going to read this somewhat slowly. So it's a bit like a meditation as I start the talk. So I invite you to take these words in. And as I read these words slowly, the invitation is to see what you notice. And maybe we'll have time after the talk to reflect on what came up as you heard these words. Just as people once believed the earth was the center of the universe, or that the earth was flat, we currently live in a paradigm where we believe in the reality of our separate existence. In this reality, it appears to be true that we need to struggle and strive, often just to survive. Living the life of our dreams for the majority is not even seen as a possibility. Even though it's true that each of us is a unique expression of life, quantum physics now reveals that we are all expressions of one field of existence. This field behaves like one mind. Science is proving what mystics have known for centuries, namely that everything is connected and an expression of one life. We are each a hologram of that one field of life. We possess the same properties or qualities as our source. This is not complicated, it's very simple. Perhaps it is too simple for some highly developed minds to grasp. And so I started with that reading because it is a reminder, really, of the fundamental principle that is at the core of New Thought, Ancient Wisdom teachings, including unity. There is one power and one presence. And for those of us who have been around unity teachings and New Thought for a while, some of us maybe months, some of us maybe years, others of us decades, we've heard this repeatedly. And maybe it's become something that we say, yeah, of course, there's one power and one presence. The invitation in this moment, though, is to actually lean in and see if that is a true teaching for you at a cellular level. In other words, can we move this from a mental construct or an idea into an experience, the experience of knowing that we are all expressions of one source, and that the Big Bang is actually us being particles of love shot out into the universe. And as the reading says, we have been taught that we are a separate being, and we're now recognizing what some of us, as I said, the mystics have been saying for centuries, and that is actually we are one power and one presence. And so to understand this, to realize that we are all cells of one power is profound and yet also profoundly simple. And I close that reading by saying maybe it's too complicated for some advanced minds, I think I said, to understand, because in my own journey, I was trying so desperately to figure out everything in life and try to figure out the meaning of life and what makes all of this work. And when I came into unity teachings, I thought, I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to do it perfectly. And I was pretty good at it, to tell you the truth. I was really good at those affirmations, and I was really good at only talking about the positive and saying, oh, don't say that, the universe might get you. And there was a place when I came to understand that there's something so much more than just the mind. The mind is a powerful servant. I think it's Albert Einstein that said, the mind is a powerful servant, but many of us believe that's who we are instead of what we have. And coming to the realization at an experiential level that the truth of who we are is an expression of source is a completely different way of being in the world. To really understand that there is no other is to have a profound shift in consciousness. And so how do we actually move it from an intellectual understanding or a concept or an idea into an experience? For me, it's twofold. It's one, question everything I've ever believed. And if you're anything like me, that might be the opposite of what you were taught growing up, because what I was taught is the mind is the source of intelligence, the individual mind, the intellect, and that if I could learn everything, learn the facts, learn the truth, I could understand more deeply. And there is, of course, a level of conscious awareness where that is the reality. What we're talking about here is that, and then we expand. And I loved in the reading, we talked about expanding our comfort zone, because as long as I stay comfortable, meaning I don't question my thoughts, I'm comfortable with this point of view, I'm comfortable with the way I see myself in the world. The issue with that, of course, is if I want anything to change, then I can't continue to have the same conclusions about myself and the world and expect different results. That's the definition of insanity, right? We've heard it many, many times, but again, I'm inviting us to lean in and say, what does that actually mean to me? If I don't question my thinking, if I don't question my perspective, if I don't question how I see myself and what I call reality, I will continue to experience the same thing over and over and over again. It is really simple, isn't it? It's amazing to me how much and I'll put this in the I, have complicated it. When the truth is, when I understand who and what I really am, that I have a mind, I'm not a mind, I have a body, I'm not my body, I have emotions, I'm not emotions, my emotions, what am I then? I'm the ultimate observer and expression of the one presence and the one power. And for me to understand that about myself, then I see it in the world. And from that place of recognition, because that's the second part of the process to me, is dedicating time to cultivating a relationship with that essential self. In other words, spending time in the silence, feeling into the energy field or the frequency that is at the core of our being, that love is who and what we are. Making contact with that, which isn't exactly right because we've never actually disconnected from that, but understanding or recognizing that's who and what we are as a starting place, then we can start to question all these ideas that we've been taught. And so it's very popular right now in our culture. Well, there's several things that are popular in our culture, but the one I want to kind of explore a little is this idea that we're living in a very divided world, or that these are, I mean, I see my friends post on Facebook, these are very difficult times. And I want to say, compared to what? Compared to 1940s? Compared to the 1930s? And we can keep going back, right? If we look throughout history, there have been things we can point to that we could call horrific. And there's always been love as well. And so this idea that we're living in worse times actually isn't even factually accurate. Our healthcare, for the most part, has advanced. Life is longer. We have less war, not to say that it's not still happening, but there is in general less violence on the planet. And so we have this idea or this construct that we're living in difficult times. And what happens when we decide we're living in difficult times? We're all students of New Thought, so we know exactly what happens. Once I've drawn the conclusion that we're living in difficult times, it's all I see. I look out and there it is. See, it's true. Look at all the division happening. And I have been saying this for a while, but it merits, to me at least, maybe I need to hear it again. I don't think we are living in a polarized country. I think we have been conditioned to have polarized thinking. At some point in our evolution, it was necessary for us to find our tribes. It literally kept us alive. And when we found people who were like us, we could be protected from the people who weren't like us, who wanted to attack us. That's a very animalistic consciousness. And throughout the human history on planet Earth, that has in many ways been the predominant or the prevailing paradigm. The paradigm of separation, the paradigm of us and them, the paradigm of good and bad. As we evolve, we start to understand that there's a greater reality. Just as we believed once that the world was flat, even though there are people on planet Earth right now who still believe the world is flat, even though we believed the Earth was the center of the universe, and I'm guessing there are some people on planet Earth who still believe that, for the most part, the paradigm or the accepted paradigm is not that. It's something more. And so it was an accepted fact that the world was flat, just like it's an accepted fact right now that there's us and them. And if you look at the human body, for example, and I'm not a doctor, so this is going to definitely be a layperson's definition or perspective of it, but I understand that our immune system is always healing, that we're always wanting to be healthy. And then something happens in our system and the cells actually fight each other. And we call that cancer, right? The cells turn on each other. And I realize this is overly simplifying it. If it's true that we're all one, what happens when we're at war with one another? And if it's true that there's a greater reality, that the seeming separation or the seeming difference is only a construct in my mind. In other words, it's something that's been taught to me. It's a paradigm of separation, a paradigm of us and them. And I want to have a different experience because, as I said in the reading, do I want the life of my dreams? Now, for some of us, we might believe the life of our dreams is to have more money or a better relationship, a nice car. Maybe we don't want as much struggle in our life. Maybe we want to be healthy. I think at the root of it, though, if we really pause and reflect, the life of our dreams is a life of knowing the truth, our true nature. God, source, love, spiritual essence. That is who and what we are. And when we know that, and when we feel that, and as I said, when we move it from an idea to an emotion, to a way of being, then we shift from the law of attraction to the law of radiance, which I've talked about before here. And I want to say it again because I think there's something really important when we think about what we see in the world. Because people will say to me, okay, come on. Are you telling me if you have a different conclusion about the world, the world will literally change? And I say, well, it is an experiment. So are you willing to try? I am not saying that we're going to pretend like the things that are happening in the world aren't happening. What we're inviting is, what am I calling it? What have I decided about it? And to back up even further, who am I really? And what would knowing that 100% of the time at an experiential level bring to the world? Then I start to radiate love into the world and I start to make an actual difference on planet Earth. That's how we shift consciousness. And yet many of us have believed the only way we're going to have change is to fight for it. And it, of course, can be argued or debated that fighting has brought some change in the world. Sure. But true change, lasting change, a shift in the paradigm always comes through love, always comes through an expanded awareness, always comes through us questioning our points of view. You know, there was a time, if you think about 100 years ago, 1923, 100 years ago, if you were to go back in time, which could be really interesting, and survey 10 people and ask them, what do you think life in 2023 is going to be like? What do you think they would come up with? Would they have an accurate idea of what we experience in technology, in the way we connect with one another, in what we're doing right now, in these different parts of the country and the world coming together on this platform? Probably they wouldn't have been able to conceive of that. And in that same way, I would invite us to look at going 100 years in the future. We don't even have any way of actually understanding what might happen. And so if we look at that spiritually, because for me, I see the next change, the next paradigm shift that we're in the middle of, but is coming to fruition and coming into what we call relative reality in unity teachings. In other words, it comes to become the acceptable fact, the accepted fact, that we're all one. That's the paradigm shift we're in. And in the midst of that, it may look like the opposite of that. And it might be seductive to say, wait, that's not true, because look, those people over there. And as long as I'm in that paradigm, as long as I've been conditioned to have polarized thinking, I will indeed continue to experience the world as polarized. I'm going to say something that might sound a little controversial, and I'll maybe it won't, maybe it will, but I'm going to explain a little bit. There's nothing wrong with seeing the world as polarized. There's nothing wrong with viewing people as the other. The question, the million-dollar question, or the multi-billion-dollar question, perhaps, is what gets created when we do so. Because I think sometimes there's a tendency for the mind to think, no, I know what the world needs right now. The world needs more love, and that this division is what's corroding. You know, I look at, I'm just going to go out on a limb here, as Mark Twain says, because that's where the fruit is, or he is said to have said that. Some people who I know who are deeply spiritual, and then I look at what they post about politics. I'm like, where's the teaching there? And this isn't, maybe it is from a place of judgment, but in some ways it breaks my heart, because what I see is, and maybe this is true for all of us, we have a divine idea that we're all one. And then in relative reality, or in the 3D world, maybe we get pulled in or seduced into believing that we're separate. And again, there's something wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with divisive political posts, but what does it create when I do that? What might it create if I were to pause and question my point of view? See, what happens is sometimes the mind comes in and says, well, are you just saying it's okay that people are doing this over here? That seems so hateful. What I'm actually saying is, what gets created when I fight against it? What would get created if I were to bring love to the situation? And what would be required of me in order to do so? So as we move toward closing this talk, and I hope we have some time to do some Q&A and some dialogue, I want to ask the very simple question that I usually ask, and that is, who are you? Who have you come here to be? Is it possible, and is it true, that each of us is a spark of divinity, and that's the core of who and what you are, that you have come here to planet Earth. Maybe you've chosen it, maybe you were assigned to it, maybe it was random. Here we are in this world that in some ways seems so divided, and in other ways, there's so much love happening on planet Earth right now. You know, the media takes this tiny little piece of reality and calls it news. This tiny little piece of relative reality, because what's really happening on planet Earth is love, connection. That's happening so much greater than any sense of division. So I'm going to close with a question. We're going to do a prayer, and then I hope maybe we'll have some time for dialogue after that. But what I want to ask is this question. Perhaps you can close your eyes at this moment as we ask the question, who am I? Is it possible that I am a spark of divinity? Is it possible that I'm a particle of source energy? Is it possible that I've come here to planet Earth at this time to be that love and to be that light? And I invite you for a moment just to check in and see what you feel about that. Not so much what you think about it. What does it feel like in your body to ask yourself that question? And as we sit with that question, I also move us now into affirmative prayer, inviting you to take a deep breath. And so how grateful I am to know that there is one power and one presence. God, love, light, source, all the different words we have for divinity. It is the truth of my life, and it is the truth of the life of every person on this Zoom, every person watching, and every living being on planet Earth and beyond. Love is who we are. Light is who we are. And because we have come here today together to explore in this infinite field of possibilities, we know that at a deeper level. And so as we continue our afternoon, our evening, we continue at this greater level of awareness. We are here to radiate this love into the world. We are here to be this love. And so with great gratitude, we release this word, knowing in the realm of spirit, it's already done. We simply say yes. We are so grateful. We let it go, we let it be, and so it is. Thank you, everyone.
Let there be peace in my mind, peace in the earth. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Shanti Om. 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 Om. Oh, Shanti Om. Peace inside my mind, God and only God is moving me. Peace inside my mind, God and only God I live to see. Peace inside my mind, God and only God is moving me. Peace inside my mind, God and only God I live to see. Oh, Shanti Om. Peace inside my heart, God and only God is moving me. Peace inside my heart, God and only God I live to see. Peace inside my heart, God and only God is moving me. Peace inside my heart, God and only God I live to see. Oh, Shanti Om. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, 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 Shanti Om.
Thank you, Margot. That was beautiful. I'm feeling loved and peaceful right now. Let's prepare for going into the stillness by taking 3 deep, calming breaths together. Inhale deeply, hold, and exhale. Again, inhale, hold, exhale. And the last time, inhale, hold, exhale. Now just breathe naturally and rhythmically, settling into your seat, feeling your body supported, your feet on the ground, feeling grounded and in connection with Mother Earth. As we share these moments together of going into the stillness, feel the love in this Zoom room, breathing in love and extending love to everyone here in our Unity community. In this place of peace and calm, what is your perfect meditation space? Is it sitting in a garden, an ocean side, the forest. Maybe it's just a special sacred place in your home where you feel at peace with a quiet mind and a heart full of love. Fully experience the sacred place. Do you smell flowers or salty ocean air? Do you feel the sun on your face? Maybe a gentle rain. Breathing into this experience, open your heart and let us go into the stillness together, feeling loved, supported, and safe in our sacred space. In the stillness, we are calm, peaceful, and one with spirit. Start to become aware of your surroundings again. Take in another deep breath. Feeling relaxed and refreshed, we proceed with our day in gratitude for the blessings we are about to receive from today's service, including TJ's message, Margot's music, the readings, and the prayers. And we are so grateful. And so we let it be, affirming that all is well. And so it is. Namaste.